The studio lights dimmed slightly as the familiar Loose Women theme music faded out, and the audience erupted in applause when the host announced the guest of the day, none other than Hollywood icon George Clooney, who was in the UK promoting his latest directorial project, a gripping political thriller that had already garnered Oscar buzz. George, looking effortlessly charming in a tailored navy suit with his signature salt and pepper hair perfectly styled, waved graciously to the crowd as he took his seat opposite the panel, which today included the outspoken Denise Welch, alongside other regulars like Nadia Sawalha, Jane Moore, and Kay Adams. The atmosphere was electric from the start, with the women gushing over George's timeless appeal, joking about how he seemed to age like fine wine, while George responded with his trademark wit, complimenting the panel on their energy and saying how much he enjoyed British daytime television for its candid conversations. Denise Welch, known for her no-nonsense approach and personal battles with mental health that she often shared openly, kicked off the interview by asking George about his transition from acting heartthrob to acclaimed director, probing into whether he felt the pressure of living up to his days or his Ocean's 11 charisma. George laughed it off, sharing anecdotes about working with Brad Pitt and Matt Damon, but then the conversation shifted when Denise steered it towards celebrity privilege and mental health in Hollywood, mentioning how some stars seem to have it all yet struggle behind the scenes. The audience leaned in, sensing the depth, as George nodded thoughtfully, opening up about his own advocacy for various causes, including humanitarian work with Amal, his human rights lawyer wife. However, things began to heat up subtly when Denise pressed him on the topic of wealth inequality, asking pointedly if super-rich actors like him truly understood the struggles of ordinary people during economic hardships. George, maintaining his composure, explained his philanthropic efforts, but Denise interjected with examples from the UK cost of living crisis, drawing parallels that some viewers later said felt a bit forced. The panel tried to lighten the mood with jokes about George's famous Nespresso ads, but Denise circled back, questioning whether celebrities should speak out more on political issues or stay in their lane. Referencing recent Hollywood controversies, George defended his right to have opinions, citing his long history of activism, and the exchange, though polite at first, started to show cracks as voices raised slightly over each other. The break came just in time, with commercials rolling as the panel smiled tensely for the cameras as the show returned from the break. The audience settled back in, expecting the usual mix of fun and frank discussion, but the tension from before lingered like a subtle fog in the studio air. George Clooney, ever the professional, attempted to pivot to lighter topics, sharing funny stories about fatherhood to his twins and how Amal keeps him grounded, which drew awes from the crowd and smiles from most of the panel. Denise Welch, however, wasn't ready to let go of the previous thread, bringing up George's past comments on politics and asking directly if he regretted getting involved in certain debates that polarized fans. George responded calmly, saying he believed in using his platform responsibly, but Denise pushed further, accusing some celebrities of virtue signaling without real action, and name-dropping a few anonymous examples that clearly irked him. The other panelists tried to mediate, with Nadia cracking a joke about how George could charm his way out of anything, but Denise doubled down, sharing her own experiences with tabloid scrutiny and mental health stigma, implying that privileged stars like George might not face the same raw judgments. George, his famous smile fading slightly, countered by pointing out his own battles with fame and loss, referencing personal family stories, but Denise interrupted, saying passionately that money cushions those blows in ways ordinary people can't imagine. The audience murmured, some cheering Denise's boldness, others shifting uncomfortably as the clash became more personal. Kay Adams, the anchor, attempted to steer back to the film promotion, asking George about working with up-and-coming actors, but Denise jumped in again, questioning Hollywood's diversity efforts and whether George's projects truly reflected change or just paid lip service. George, now visibly frustrated though still articulate, defended his record, listing specific initiatives and co-stars from diverse backgrounds, but his tone sharpened when he suggested that blanket criticisms oversimplify complex industries. The debate intensified, with raised voices overlapping, and Jane Moore chiming in to support George while acknowledging Denise's points on class divides. Commercials loomed again, but this time the energy was palpably charged, with social media already buzzing about the unexpected fireworks on a usually breezy daytime show. Viewers at home tweeted in real time, some praising Denise for holding a megastar accountable, others defending George as gracious under fire. Coming back from the second break, the producers likely hoped for a cool down, but the heated clash between George Clooney and Denise Welch only escalated, turning what started as a promotional spot into one of the most talked about moments in Loose Women history. George, trying to regain the charming vibe, complimented the show's format for allowing real talk, but Denise, fueled by her passion for social issues, launched into a rant about celebrity hypocrisy during global crises, directly challenging George on his private jet usage amid climate change discussions. The audience gasped audibly as George, his eyes narrowing, responded firmly that he offsets his carbon footprint and invests heavily in sustainable projects, but Denise scoffed, calling such measures band-aids for the ultra-wealthy. The panel fractured, with some nodding along to Denise's fire, others visibly uncomfortable as the exchange grew pointed and personal. George accused Denise of cherry-picking facts to fit a narrative, while she fired back that stars like him live in bubbles detached from reality, referencing paparazzi chases and luxury lifestyles. The host intervened multiple times, but the momentum was unstoppable, with George standing his ground on his humanitarian work alongside them all, detailing refugee aid and disaster relief efforts that he claimed went beyond photo ops. Denise, undeterred, brought up UK-specific issues like NHS funding cuts, asking why American celebrities comment on world affairs but ignore calls for more tangible support. The crowd was split, applause mixing with boos, as the argument delved into transatlantic differences in wealth and privilege. George, known for his cool demeanor, raised his voice for the first time, saying he wouldn't be lectured on commitment by someone who didn't know his full story, which prompted Denise to retort sharply about assumptions and media portrayals. The tension peaked when Denise implied George's charm masked deeper elitism, and he shot back that passionate opinions were fine but personal attacks crossed lines. Producers signaled frantically for a segment change, but the damage was done, with the live feed capturing raw emotion rarely seen on daytime TV. As the show cut to a pre-recorded package on Fashion or Something Light, backstage whispers suggested George was fuming, and Denise stood firm in her convictions. Online forums exploded with clips circulating rapidly, debating who was right in this unlikely showdown. The final segment began with an awkward attempt at reconciliation, as the anchor apologized for the intensity and tried to wrap up with positive notes on George's film, but the clash's aftermath hung heavy over the Loose Women set. George Clooney, professionalism intact but clearly rattled, praised the panel's honest eye while subtly noting that debates should remain respectful, his words laced with understatement that fans later dissected. Denise Welch, unapologetic as ever, defended her questions as necessary for authentic conversation, arguing that celebrities guesting on shows like this should expect tough topics, not just fluff. The audience, sensing the endgame, watched intently as George shared a final anecdote about directing, but Denise interjected one last time, pressing on actor pay disparities, which prompted George to say he believed in fair compensation but changes took time. The exchange, though shorter, reignited sparks, with George suggesting some critiques stem from envy rather than principle, a comment that drew sharp intake of breath from the panel. Denise responded fiercely, sharing her working-class roots and struggles in the industry, positioning herself as a voice for the underrepresented. Other panelists jumped in, some backing Denise's grit, others smoothing over for George, but the divide was clear. Suddenly, George checked his watch visibly, mentioning a prior commitment, but insiders later claimed it was an excuse as the vibe soured irreparably. The host thanked him profusely, but as applause swelled, George stood abruptly, shaking hands politely but briefly before heading toward the exit mid-segment. Producers panicked, cutting to commercials early, but not before cameras caught Denise looking defiant and George striding off with security in tow. Whispers of him being kicked off spread instantly, though technically he walked, fueled by the abrupt departure amid the ongoing tension. Social media went into overdrive, with hashtags trending about the dramatic exit, clips going viral showing the escalating argument leading to the moment George left the stage. Viewers debated if Denise overstepped or if George couldn't handle the heat, while the show scrambled to fill time with audience questions. Backstage reports emerged of raised voices continuing off-camera, with George allegedly expressing disappointment in the ambush feel of the interview. The incident marked a rare stormy episode for Loose Women, boosting ratings overnight. In the immediate aftermath of George Clooney's sudden departure from the Loose Women set, the panel sat in stunned silence for a beat before the anchor smoothly transitioned to a lighter topic, but the audience's murmurs and scattered applause revealed the shock rippling through the studio. Denise Welch, face flushed from the intense exchange, defended her line of questioning post-commercial, saying on air that holding powerful figures accountable was part of the show's DNA, and she stood by every word without regret. The other women offered mixed reactions, some praising the raw honesty that made television memorable, others noting it might have gone too far for a guest appearance meant to promote a film. Meanwhile, George's team issued no immediate statement, but sources close to the actor described him as surprised by the confrontational turn, expecting a fun, promotional chat rather than a debate on socio-economic issues. Clips of the clash spread like wildfire online, amassing millions of views within hours, with commentators analyzing every word, from Denise's passionate interruptions to George's defensive retorts. Supporters of Denise hailed her as a fearless truth-teller unafraid of Hollywood glamour, while George's fans accused the show of ambushing him for ratings bait. The incident sparked broader discussions on celebrity interviews, with pundits questioning boundaries between probing questions and personal attacks. Loose Women trended worldwide, ironically giving George's movie more publicity than a standard plug ever could, as headlines screamed about the heated clash and storm off. Denise later took to social media, posting cryptically about speaking one's mind, garnering thousands of likes from fans who admired her boldness. George's camp remained classy, focusing on the film's positive reviews, but whispers in entertainment circles suggested he might avoid similar daytime slots in the future. The episode's replay drew record viewership, proving controversy sells, while the panel reflected internally on balancing frankness with hospitality. Ultimately, the showdown highlighted clashing worlds, Hollywood Polish meeting British bluntness, leaving both sides bruised, but the conversation ignited. Analysts predicted lingering fallout, with potential impacts on future bookings. Days after the explosive Loose Women episode featuring George Clooney's abrupt exit following his clash with Denise Welch, the media frenzy showed no signs of abating, with tabloids and online outlets dissecting the moment frame by frame, debating who emerged victorious in the verbal sparring. George, back in the U.S., addressed it briefly in a subsequent interview, calling it a lively discussion that got passionate but reaffirming his respect for open dialogue. Though his tight smile suggested lingering irritation, Denise Welch, thriving in the spotlight, appeared on follow-up segments defending her approach, arguing that daytime TV thrives on real opinions and that sugarcoating for stars defeats the purpose, earning her both backlash and a surge in support from viewers tired of scripted celebrity chats. The show's producers reportedly reviewed the booking process, acknowledging the risk of mismatched expectations but celebrating the buzz that propelled ratings skyward. George's film opened strongly, partly attributed to the unintended viral promotion, while Denise's profile rose further as a no-holds-barred panelist. Long-term, the incident became fodder for TV history recaps, often cited alongside other infamous talk show meltdowns, illustrating the fine line between engaging debate and outright confrontation. Fans speculated on reconciliations, with some hoping for a rematch, others relieved it ended without further escalation. In reflection, both George and Denise embodied their public personas, him the suave diplomat, her the fiery advocate, clashing in a perfect storm of personalities. The event underscored evolving media landscapes, where unfiltered moments capture attention in an era of polished PR. Ultimately, no apologies were issued, and life moved on, but the title George Clooney kicked off Loose Women after heated clash with Denise Welch immortalized a fictionalized frenzy that felt all too real in the heat of the moment. reminding everyone that live television remains unpredictably thrilling.